We're always underdogs. We're always gonna not win the next thing.
Phoenix One are picking up kills right now, and CLG are falling apart.
We're still waiting for them to really show back up.
And then we ended up doing it.
This is what CLG were hoping for, the commanding win.
CLG's been winning a lot lately against the bottom teams, so it looks like they're doing good right now, but it's hard to say when they face a better team like us.
Great punish game, always keeping up pressure, excellent macro objectives. Immortals just have everything as a team.
Now we're kind of back to the underdogs. We got to prove ourselves again.
Hello and welcome to Week 7 of the North American LCS. With playoffs fast approaching, we're getting into some key late-season matches that could punch your favorite team's ticket to Toronto. Now, earlier in the day, we got a look at Rainover setting up on stage, getting ready to go up against CLG's jungler in xSmithy. This is going to be a hotly contested matchup between the two of them, and we're lucky enough to have a second stream dedicated to just that matchup for both of these guys. It's going to be a real test of strength. Now, Rainover has always kind of been that picture of perfection when it comes to junglers in NA. We'll see if xSmithy can stack up to that, but he has impressed so far this entire year, been one of the impressive members of that team. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm James Dash Patterson, back alongside Aiden Zyrene Moon. So first of all, 3 p.m. start time, how does it feel?
I'm wide awake.
Exactly.
It feels great right now. I'm just like, it's summer. Maybe I'll get out earlier. Who knows, man?
That's true. Well, yeah, we won't be ending at midnight unless something insane happens.
I love game threes, but midnight game threes, a little bit harder on the players. I want to see some good League of Legends. I want them to be well rested and have like good tournaments.
No excuses. It's 3 p.m. Everyone's very awake right now. Let's get a look at how the league stands coming into Week 7. TSM have clinched a playoff berth from their first place position. Now, Immortals, they can join them this week with a victory. They're in second place. Liquid and C9 are tied for third. Behind them in a tie of their own is Team Envy and Counterlogic Gaming. And in the hunt for a playoff spot is 7th and 8th place Apex and Energy, with Phoenix One and Echo Fox at the bottom of the table. Getting a quick glimpse of the matches on deck today. First up, Immortals take on CLG. Afterwards, Phoenix One takes to the stage against Energy. And looking ahead on Sunday, make sure to catch our match of the week when Counterlogic Gaming comes back for a key matchup with yet another top team in Cloud9. And if we are going to kind of project beyond this Immortals matchup today and look at that C9 matchup, this is one that definitely feels a little bit more within their reach. And when it comes to discussing jostling for playoff positioning, this is a team that they could actually surge ahead of.
Yeah, and Cloud9, I was talking to a couple Cloud9 fans throughout the week, and they were like, I love watching Cloud9 because I don't know if they're going to win or lose, because they can beat every team, and then sometimes they feel like they can lose to every team. And CLG right now, they seem to be having a little bit of a resurgence. This game that we have today is going to give us a better idea of that, because maybe that'll be closer than we anticipate it to be.
Very much a test of strength today, and then we'll look forward to that C9 matchup later this weekend. Right off the top, though, I want to give you some details on a special presentation over on NALCS 2, where we'll have a jungle focus stream with Kobe, Crumbs, and Dream Team jungler Acadian. They will take a deep dive on that Rainover and xSmithy matchup. So tune in to NALCS 2 for some high-level strategy and mechanical discussion from the jungle experts themselves. When we get into Champions League, don't do it just yet. Stick with us while we break down more of the day. Now, if we do narrow in on that jungle matchup, how exactly do you see it playing out? Obviously, Rainover has impressed with his consistency, and CLG, just by nature of having a worse season, makes it tougher for xSmithy to look good.
Yeah, and xSmithy, he's always been that guy that's kind of in the shadows and like working behind the scenes. And I think that this stream in particular is going to be fantastic, because you'll get a great idea of his early routing as well as what Rainover is able to do to force what the other jungler has to do in response. So honestly, like, I'm going to be like watching that over and over again, like at home. It's like if we have some time after the show, I'm definitely going to go back and watch that. But in terms of expectation, I expect xSmithy to still be very present. They both have very high first blood participation, and they love to be aggressive and help their team. And they're more facilitators than like actual carries for their team, more often than not.
A nice little spotlight on that matchup. Now let's put a spotlight on the league. Moving on, it is Week 7, and we're drawing ever closer to playoffs. So let's start talking about what's at stake in the postseason. Now, this graphic represents how the teams would fare if the season were to end today. So keep that that in mind, of course, things can still change.
Exactly. They're just taking the standings that they have currently right now. And it is true, CLG and NB are tied, but CLG does have a better game record right now, so they're a little bit higher up. And I do want to talk about CLG a little more because they have 90 points from that first place from spring. It's a little bit higher weighted in summer, but despite that, they can still come out as a North American regional qualifier #1 spot if it were to end today. And then, like, even on top of that, like, all of these guys, they can really end up in almost any position, especially with the auto qualification for Worlds if you get first place.
Very much so. It's so funny how, once again, we find ourselves in a position where CLG, essentially the C9 of last year, where they have this allotment of points that is definitely serving them very well when it comes to the playoff picture, and they're seeding when it comes into that regional qualifier.
Exactly. Because they had gotten first place in spring, even if they were to not make playoffs and they got 7th place, they would still most likely be in the North American regional qualifier and still have to play some best of 5s. And of course, if it were to end today, they'd only have to play 1, and that just gives them a much better chance.
They're the final boss, essentially, of that regional qualifier if it ends today. But this is just to give you a little bit of an idea of how the playoff picture would look. Zyrene ran through a little bit of the tiebreaker scenario, the fact that, of course, it's wins to losses. Then we've got game record to follow up behind that, or behind head-to-head, rather. So lots of factors. Don't worry, we'll have all that sorted out as we close into the final weeks. But this is going to bring us to our final, or rather first match tonight. CLG is facing off against Immortals, and with CounterLogic Gaming contending for a lower playoff seed, second place Immortals are the caliber of opponents CLG will realistically need to compete with as we move into that playoff picture.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're going to go to playoffs, you have to be able to beat every team. And CLG was talking about how, you know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and they want to finish strong, and this is where it starts for them if they do want to end up making playoffs in a higher seed and have a better run of playoffs than right now they look like they would have.
Now, the flip side of it is Immortals, they clinch playoffs if they seal the deal tonight in this series. So not that they can't get those victories later down the line, but of course they're playing for their guaranteed playoff spot tonight. That's going to mean they're bringing the heat.
Oh, I think that Immortals and TSM are both going to bring the heat, like, all season long till the very end, because they are contesting each other now. Before, Immortals didn't really have somebody kind of right on their heels.
Very true.
And now they're like, okay, well, everybody thinks TSM's the #1 team. They have a lot to work for now. They are not as talked about as TSM at the moment. So I think Immortals, they're going to come out swinging. TSM have shown that, like, even if they don't have to play Talia against Apex, they're going to do it game 1 and just show the league that they can do that. So I think Immortals are going to answer, be like, hey, we are really powerful too. Pay attention to us. Let's lock in our playoff spot. Let's get that first round bye and keep going forward. So I think those two teams motivate each other, and I think the league is better for it.
Short and sweet from us at the top of the show. It's time for some gameplay, some League of Legends, ladies and gentlemen, on a Friday afternoon. The games are about to get underway, so let's hand it off to the casters for the call.